me, the Passion narrative confronts us with a lot of questions. One of the questions that it confronts me with today is, will I forsake Jesus? Will I run away? Will I deny him? Or will I stand with Jesus? And it's really one of those fundamental questions of a spiritual life. Will I stand with Jesus, or will I forsake him, deny him? Will I run away when it gets really tough? When I'm confronted with the reality of the cross in my own life? What a contrast this passage, this Passion narrative is from what we heard as we gathered out in our Mary courtyard. When we heard about Jesus entering into Jerusalem, all the crowds acclaimed him. They cried out, "Hosanna, Hosanna." Hosanna means, "Lord, save us." They acclaimed him the King of Israel. He comes riding in on a colt, fulfilling the prophecy that they've been waiting for and longing for and expecting. And now we hear in a sense, the rest of the story. And it's just a few days later. Now what are the crowds crying out? The crowds are crying out, "Crucify him." We see Jesus forsaken by all of his closest friends. You know, the only folks that are gathered around the cross, according to the Gospel of Mark, is some women. That's it. We hear about Peter. Peter says, "Lord, hey, I'll go to the death with you." And what does he do? Denies him 3 times. We hear about Judas, one of the 12, one of his chosen 12, one of his closest friends and collaborators who he spent 3 years with, revealing his love, revealing God in him, revealing how God had sent the Messiah now, trying to help all of them understand. And Judas betrays him. Some of the saddest words in the whole gospel, some of the saddest words Jesus ever spoke to me in this gospel we hear today. It'd been better if he had never been born. It says all of the disciples ran away. We have this strange figure of the young man that was dressed in a linen cloth, that as he's running away, they grab the cloth and he runs off naked. They think that perhaps that may have been St. Mark, the author of this gospel, because he's the only one that records that incident. He takes of the 12, Jesus had 3 of the apostles who were always with him in those key moments, like at the Transfiguration and when he healed the little girl. He takes John and James and Peter with him there to the Garden of Gethsemane. He says, "At least these will not forsake me. These will stand with me." And what do? They fall asleep. They're too complacent, too apathetic, really, too disengaged. You know, it's like, how is that possible? Again, we're challenged by this gospel narrative, this passion narrative, to put ourselves in this. That's why we do this on this day and on also Good Friday when we read from the Passion from the Gospel of John. We participate in it. We're meant to participate in it. It's really, in a sense, what the whole mystery of our Christian life is all summed up in this Last Supper, suffering and death. And then, of course, what we're going to celebrate next Sunday, Easter, the resurrection. Simon the Cyrene is forced to help him. It's interesting that St. Mark tells us the name of his sons. You know, isn't that a strange detail? This gospel, written probably, St. Mark's was probably the first gospel written maybe 30 years after this event. And he throws his names of his sons, Alexander and Rufus. What the church tradition tells us is that they were two of the early bishops of the church. That what their father did so impacted them and drew them into the mystery of Jesus that they became two of the early bishops of the church. Remember, Jesus comes as the Messiah for the Jews, and all the Jews reject him. He comes to proclaim God's love to the Sanhedrin, especially to the high priest, and they deny him, forsake him, turn their backs on him. Jesus comes for the whole world. He even comes for those Roman soldiers, for Pilate even. And they all deny him for their own reasons. Group pressure, the pressure just to be quiet and just to go along. One centurion realizes what's going on and says, "That is the Son of God." In St. Mark's Gospel, he makes that greatest act of faith. Everyone forsakes him. And so because everyone around him forsakes him, he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Because all of his friends had forsaken him. All the people he depended on. The people he came to reveal God's love to. Everyone. Except for a handful of women that stand faithfully. So the question that confronts me this day, that confronts all of us, is, will we stand with Jesus, or will we deny him, forsake him, turn our backs on him, and run away? I encourage you this Holy Week to, Jesus says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Maybe during Lent you've not fulfilled those promises that you made and thought about, that you promised on Ash Wednesday. So what I would encourage you to do is to double down for Holy Week. Really be intentional and purposeful about entering into this most sacred week of the whole year for us. Good Friday is a day of absolute fast. Make it a day of prayer and penance. Come to the Stations of the Cross. We'll have them at 11 o'clock here in the church. 12 noon, we have the living stations with our Spanish-speaking community. It's very powerful, very beautiful. We'll start at the front of the church and process up to the sports fields. We'll reenact the crucifixion. Holy Thursday night, we'll have the celebration of the Lord's Supper at 7 o'clock. Good Friday at 7 p.m. we'll again enter into the Passion, venerate the cross. And then, of course, Easter Sunday, we celebrate that great mystery. So I encourage you, live well this Holy Week. Will we stand with him, or will we forsake him? We each have to answer that before God. Amen.